you, Mr. Jacobson. The next speaker is Mr. Lewsiton.
Good morning. It's nice to be in the home of Bill Carey. Hope that name means something to you. I was the last manager of the Red Sox that won back-to-back World Series in 1915 and 1916. I also want to tell you that the first place that had the largest line in the state of Maine when the Red Sox finally won the World Series in 2004 was in the town of Lewsiton, Auburn. It went around the block several times. And it's great to be in the largest port city in Maine, right here in Lewsiton, Auburn, because this is the largest port, whether you know it or not, in the state of Maine. Congratulations. You've done a great, great job. Because of those things, I opened my first field office here in Lewsiton, Auburn on Main Street, and I know a lot of you were there with me when we opened that office. This community epitomizes the direction that the state of Maine needs to go. And there are a lot of lessons to be learned, and we all, candidates, are learning from the people of Lewsiton, Auburn, because you guys are doing it right, and we need to spread that in the entire state of Maine. I want to tell you that I started my business career in Maine with 4 employees and grew a company to 1,200. I need to tell you that I got my job experience in life from my father. My father was born in 1886 in Germany, and his father and his uncle were butchers. And they took their first $5,000 and they put my dad in business in 1902, and he became a very successful businessman in Germany. And by 1937, he led and owned the largest German steel production company. But there were 2 things that were inevitable that changed his life. The first one was that he was a Jew. The second one was Adolf Hitler came to his office and said, "Mr. Otten, you will make bombs for the German war machine." And my father said no, and he was arrested. And they fled the country. And they were underground in Holland, and they went to Canada and Mexico, and finally, he became an American citizen in 1946. He met my mom in 1947. I was born in 1949. In 1953, as a 4-year-old, I stood in Penn Central Station holding my father's hand as he got on a train to go to Washington, D.C. to testify to the Congress of the United States on how to rebuild jobs in Germany. The 2 things that I learned from my father in life: 1, when you got knocked down, you stand back up again, because he did that perhaps in a way none of us will ever have to do. And 2, you stand up for what's right. You stand up for what you have to do regardless of what the personal cost is. Maine is broken, ladies and gentlemen. We know that Maine is broken. We pay more for our energy than anybody else in the United States based on our income. We are the highest taxed people in the United States of America based on our income. These things cannot create jobs. These things will not build the environment that we need for our children to be educated, for our children to stay in the state of Maine. Our #1 export can no longer be our children. We need to keep our children in the state of Maine. We need to provide for our children. Now, as your governor, there are 5 things that I see when I look down at the state of Maine that need to be changed. The first one is our tax structure. We have the highest death tax and capital gains tax combined than any state in the United States, which is why everybody leaves Maine with their money. Remember, I told you that in 1902, my father got a loan from his parents to start a business. Where are the people that are going to lend our young people the money to start them in business? They're in Florida. Why? Because there's a better tax break. Bill talked about Ireland. Why is Ireland successful? Ireland is successful because they got rid of their corporate income tax and sucked business out of the United States. If you look at 95, Route 95, you see 2 things. You see a red tide of Republican enthusiasm moving up the East Coast. We won in Virginia. We won in New Jersey. We won in Massachusetts. We will win in Maine. So when you look at 95, you see a vacuum cleaner that is is sucking jobs out of Maine. When you can go to North Carolina and pay 30% less for your electricity. When Michigan is calling every business in the state of Maine with more than 50 employees and asking them to come to Michigan. When Florida offered Jackson Labs $300 million to build a campus that will employ 12,000 people in Florida, and we didn't have the courage or the brains to figure out how to spend $900 million that has passed through our fingers in Augusta to keep Jackson Labs in Maine, we're making a big mistake. In my administration, we won't make those mistakes. A sanctuary state. We must have a residency requirement. As Paul LePage said, we need workfare, not welfare. If you're going to get a check from the state of Maine in my administration, you're going to work for it. And we're going to have a graduated system so that if you do go back to work, we won't take all your benefits away from you. We will reward you for working in the state of Maine. There are 4 things that the governor has at his disposal to make these things happen. The first is the bully pulpit. This one, right here. We need to talk to ourselves. We need to talk, and we need to make sure that everybody understands where we are and that we will succeed in the future. The second is we need to build consensus. The next governor of the state of Maine needs to sit down with every legislator who obviously wants his job, sit down with them one-on-one, and explain where the state of Maine is, where the bear does his business, where we really are in the state of Maine, so that we make sure that the 181 people that are representing us know where we need to go. The third thing is the policies of the state of Maine come from the budget. So if your budget contains 2 mental health institutions when you only need 1, you're setting policy. When your budget includes 80% spending on health, education, and welfare without modifications, without rewarding teachers, and without cutting administration, you are setting policy. The most important power that the governor has at the end of the day is the veto. The last great governor of the state of Maine was John McKernan, and he, in 1995, used that veto, which is why today our workmen's compensation rates are reasonable. I will use the veto. I will shut down government when it needs to get shut down. And ladies and gentlemen, I promise you that when government shuts down for 30 or 60 days, you won't notice it, and that tells it all. Governing is not for the privileged. It is a privilege. I ask for your vote, humbly. This is a job interview that is going to go on for 12 months. I want to work for you. I understand that my job is to work for you. I want all of Maine government to be returned to the people of the state of Maine and work for your behest to build this great state so that we're the #1 state for job creation in the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Les Otten. I want to be your governor in November. Thank you very much for being here today.